Welcome to Manawaker Studios Flash Fiction Podcast. I'm CB Drogi. A quick note before we begin. Please consider supporting Manawaker Studio with a purchase of one of our books or games. Find out more at manawaker.com. This week, The Beer Connoisseur by Hannah Lackoff. He always drank PBR, called himself a beer connoisseur, but I never saw him drink anything else but cold metallic tall boys. He made up a song about it that he hummed under his breath. I couldn't make out the words, and I couldn't read his lips under that full beard. One week he switched to bottles, and every once in a while he'd get Melissa to pour him a glass from the tap, but mostly it was just cans. He said it tasted better that way, more authentic. He had a creepy girlfriend for a while, with a tattoo of a bright Cheshire cat moon on her lower back. She had long dark hair and deep eyes, wore low-cut shirts to show off the cleavage of her shallow breasts. She loved him, except when he yelled at her. He loved her except when she yelled at him. It was passion, he said, and I guess passion in the end is what drove them apart. He lived in town for a while, halfway up the hill. He'd make the trek to the bar every night, rain or shine, snow or heat. Once I told him he should just buy a case of Pabst and save the trouble, but he said that the beer wasn't the reason he came out at night. Once, he didn't show up for over a week, and we wondered what had happened to him. First we joked, and then we got worried. It was getting colder every night, spitting frigid snow into our eyes and under our tires. We hoped he was all right. Maybe, I said, he had finally taken my thrifty advice and holed up in that house on the hill, just him and a 12-pack. Or a 30-rack. You know how he was. No one believed me. I wasn't sure I believed myself. We all switched to cheap beer for a night. He came back, not dead at all. He'd just moved, he told us, to the woods to be closer to nature. We guessed his hippie roots were finally showing through. Always figured that beard was just the start of something deeper. Figured that now he'd stop trimming it, maybe stop washing altogether. Paula told him he should have a housewarming party. She said she would bring the beer. He just shook his head, smiling that smile of his, almost hidden under the beard. Said he preferred his privacy. I hoped he wasn't homeless, I told Melissa as I walked her home that night. I was worried he was out on the streets in the cold. Maybe he'd lost his lease. She said he'd paid her with $100 that night and given a nice tip. He was a thrifty guy, she said, and she didn't think he was in any kind of trouble. But did he have a job, I wondered? Sounded to her like he'd had jobs aplenty and all over the world. Tokyo, Bombay, Normandy, and throughout the West Coast. Maybe he was in the army. I'd never known he'd traveled. Seemed like such a part of our little town that I'd assumed he'd always been there. Melissa shoved me playfully, and I caught a patch of ice, skidding for a second before catching myself on her coat sleeve. She shrieked a little and then steadied us both, and we giggled like a couple of kids. "Want to come up for a beer?" she asked. "I know just the kind you'd like." This has been The Beer Connoisseur, written by Hannah Lackoff. The Flash Fiction Podcast theme song is by Kevin MacLeod. I'm CB Drogi. Thanks for listening. Episode 0138. Production copyright 2016. CB Drogi and Manawaker Studio.